Okay, this all started when I moved into a new apartment. It was small, kind of old, but the rent was cheap and I needed a fresh start. I was excited. A new chapter. Just me and a quiet space where I could finally think. But from the first night, something felt off. Not scary at first, just strange. The place had this silence that wasn't normal. Not peaceful silence. More like the air was holding its breath. The walls were thin. I could hear the upstairs neighbor walking sometimes. Nothing weird. But one night, I swear, I heard someone whispering, right behind my wall. I paused everything, turned off the TV, listened. Nothing. Just silence. I laughed it off. Maybe I was tired. Maybe I imagined it. But a few days later, I was hanging up a picture frame in my bedroom, and the nail wouldn't go in. It hit something hard inside the wall. I tapped the wall. It sounded hollow. So I got curious. I don't know why. I grabbed a screwdriver and started picking at the corner where the wallpaper was peeling. Just a little. That's when I saw it. Folded. Stuffed inside the wall. A piece of paper. I pulled it out. My hands were shaking and I had no idea why. It was a letter. Handwritten. The first line said, "If someone finds this, please help me." I froze. It didn't look like a joke. The handwriting was messy. The ink had smudged in places, like it had been written in a rush, or maybe someone was crying. I sat down on the floor and read the whole thing. The writer didn't say their name, just that they were trapped, that he wouldn't let her leave, that nobody believed her, that this wall was the only place she could hide the truth. I read it twice, 3 times. My chest felt tight, like I wasn't alone anymore. I wanted to believe it was some weird prank, maybe left by the last tenant, trying to scare someone. But the paper was old. The corners were brown. It had been there for a while. I didn't sleep that night. I kept thinking, what if there were more letters? What if someone really needed help and nobody ever found out? The next morning, I couldn't focus on anything else. I grabbed a flashlight, a small knife, and started checking behind other parts of the wall where the paint looked cracked or soft. And guess what? I found another one. This time, the paper was thinner, torn at the edges, but the handwriting was the same. And the message? It was worse. He locks me in here when he leaves. I can hear people outside, but I'm not allowed to scream. Please, if you're reading this, don't tell him. Just get the police. I dropped the letter. My hands were shaking so bad, I could barely breathe. Who was he? Was this woman still alive? And most of all, what exactly happened inside these walls? That was just the beginning. And I swear, what I found next made me wish I'd never opened that first letter. I couldn't stop thinking about the letters. All day at work, my mind kept going back to them. I even took pictures on my phone, just to prove to myself they were real. I stared at the handwriting during lunch. I zoomed in on the smudges, trying to guess how long they'd been there. Was this recent? Or was I too late? The moment I got back home, I went straight to the wall. No dinner, no shower. I grabbed the flashlight again, and this time, I went deeper. The second letter had come from the hallway wall, near a small crack above the baseboard. So I started there. I took a box cutter and carefully peeled more of the paint away. Underneath, the drywall was weak, like it had been messed with before. I pressed my fingers into it. It crumbled. Behind it, there was nothing. Just darkness and old insulation. But something was stuck between the beams. I reached in and pulled it out slowly. Another letter, folded smaller than the others. Tighter, like someone had been hiding it in a panic. This one was different. It wasn't just a note. It was begging. I don't know how long I've been here. I write these in secret when he's out. Sometimes I think I'm going crazy. But I need you. Please help me. I read that part over and over. My mouth went dry. I don't know how else to describe it, but I felt watched. Like the air shifted when I touched the letter. Like the apartment somehow knew I was getting closer to something I wasn't supposed to. I tried to shake it off, but my heart wouldn't stop racing. I sat down in the hallway, back against the cold wall, and stared at the pieces of paper in my hand. This wasn't a prank. This wasn't a game. Whoever wrote these was real. Terrified. But there was something else that chilled me to my bones. She said she was locked in when he left. Locked in where? I checked every room, every closet, every door. But the apartment was small. One bedroom, one bathroom, tiny kitchen. Nothing unusual. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something, or someone, had been here before me. Maybe still was. I couldn't sleep again that night. Every creak of the floor above made me jump. I left the lights on. I even opened my closet 3 times just to be sure nothing was hiding inside. And right around 3 a.m., I heard it. A knock. So, 3 slow taps. But not from the front door. It came from inside the wall. Right behind my bed. I held my breath. Nothing followed. No footsteps. No voices. Just silence. But the kind of silence that holds a secret. That's when I knew. There were more letters. More pieces of the story. And if I wanted the truth, I'd have to tear this whole place apart. The next morning, I didn't even bother with breakfast. I was on a mission. I cleared my entire schedule. No work. No errands. Nothing. Just me, a crowbar I picked up from the hardware store, and these walls that were starting to feel more like a coffin than a home. I couldn't forget those knocks. I kept replaying them in my head. 3 slow taps. Not random. Not the building settling. Deliberate. Like someone wanted me to hear. I started with the wall behind my bed, the one where the knock had come from. It felt so wrong tearing into it. Like I was violating something sacred. Or waking something up. But I had to know. I pushed my dresser aside, rolled up the rug, and started pulling at the drywall. At first, nothing. Just insulation, old wires. Duh. But then, wedged deep between the boards, almost too far to reach, was something wrapped in plastic. I had to use pliers to pull it out. It was a bundle of letters. Not 1. Not 2. At least 10, folded together, tied with an old ribbon that had nearly disintegrated. My hands were shaking as I untied it. Each one was dated. The handwriting started neat, then got worse, more frantic with each page. Like the person writing them was losing hope. The first one said, Day 12. I tried screaming today when the window was open. No one heard me. Or maybe no one cared. I don't know what's worse. The second, Day 19. He brought food today. Didn't say a word. Just stared. I think he wants me to forget how to talk. And then the third, Day 27. I found a nail in the floor. I might try something tonight. If this ends up being my last letter, I hope someone reads this. I hope I existed to someone. That line hit me so hard I had to sit down. I hope I existed to someone. Who writes something like that unless they truly believe they're about to disappear. I kept going. Each letter revealed a little more. Her name was never fully written, just signed with "im" at the bottom. Sometimes she'd draw tiny shapes in the corners, moons, stars, crosses. I didn't know what they meant yet, but one letter stood out. It was stained, not with ink, not with water, something darker. Day 34. He found one of my letters. I'm bleeding. I don't know how much longer I can hide these. Please, if anyone finds them, tell my mother I tried. That was the moment I realized. This wasn't just someone asking for help. This was someone who might have died right here. In this apartment. Behind these walls. And nobody knew. Nobody cared. Until now. I sat in the middle of my torn-up bedroom, letters spread out around me like pieces of a broken puzzle. The air felt heavier. The light through the window didn't seem as warm anymore. I suddenly understood. This wasn't just a mystery. This was a crime scene. And the deeper I dug, the more I feared that I might not be the only one still living here. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I didn't know who she was, but it felt like I did. Her words were in my head. Her fear, her pain, her hope. All of it was clinging to me like dust from the walls I tore down. I tried to sleep, but I couldn't. Every little sound made my heart race. The pipes groaning, a door creaking upstairs, the wind pushing against the window, and then, just like before, 3 knocks. Not from the front door, not from a neighbor, from inside the wall. This time, right behind my closet. I froze. I sat up in bed, holding my breath, listening. Silence. But I felt something. Like someone was standing on the other side of the wall, waiting for me to move. I got up slowly. My feet were cold against the floor. I grabbed my phone, turned on the flashlight, and walked toward the closet. I didn't want to, but I had to. I opened the door. Nothing but coats, shoes, and a few moving boxes I hadn't unpacked. I reached to the back and tapped the wall. Hollow, like before. I pushed some boxes aside, crouched down, and looked closer. There was a tiny hole, like someone had pried out a screw, then covered it with tape. I peeled the tape back and looked inside. It was dark, but deep in there, I saw something. Something that didn't belong. I ran and got my tools. 30 minutes later, after cutting through wood and drywall, I found it. A small compartment, no bigger than a kitchen drawer, hidden behind the closet wall. A small notebook, wrapped in plastic, and a photo. The photo was old, black and white, faded at the edges. A girl, maybe early 20s. She was smiling, but her eyes looked tired. On the back, written in pencil, Emily May, summer 1996. I finally had her name, Emily May. She was real. She was here. And suddenly, I wasn't okay. I sat there on the closet floor, holding that photo like it might break apart in my hands. My apartment, my safe little space, didn't feel like mine anymore. It felt like I was borrowing it from her. From a ghost with a voice that had been trapped behind these walls for years. I opened the notebook. The pages were filled with her handwriting. Not letters, journal entries. Detailed, day-by-day records of her time here. And the things she wrote? They didn't just scare me. They broke me. He watches me through the vents. He tells me if I try to run, no one will believe me. Sometimes he laughs when I cry. I think he enjoys it. And then one final sentence on the last page, scribbled hard into the paper like she was out of time. I heard someone move in next door. If you can hear me, knock 3 times. I dropped the notebook. My skin turned cold. She wasn't knocking to scare me. She was trying to reach me. She wanted to be found. And now that I had heard her, I couldn't ignore her. I wouldn't. But the more I looked around, the more I realized I wasn't the only one searching. And someone, or something, didn't want me to keep digging. The next morning, I felt like I hadn't slept at all. My eyes were burning. My head was heavy. But I couldn't stop now. I had Emily's name, her notebook, her letters, and a terrible feeling that something in this apartment was watching every move I made. I spent hours online, searching her name, Emily May, apartment missing woman, 1996, anything. But nothing came up. No police reports. No news stories. No missing persons with that exact name from this building. It was like she never existed. Like someone made sure she disappeared without a trace. But I had proof. I laid out everything on my kitchen table. The letters, the journal, the photo, and then I saw something I hadn't noticed before. The bottom edge of the photo, barely visible, was a corner of a window with bars on it. That window wasn't in my apartment. It didn't match any of the rooms. Thus, I checked every window in the place again, but they were all normal. No bars, no signs of anything covered up, until I got to the hallway. There was a section between the hallway and the kitchen where the wall stuck out weird, like someone had built over it. The paint didn't match either. I had ignored it before, thinking it was just part of an old repair. But now, it felt like a clue. I tapped on it. Hollow. I grabbed the crowbar again. My hands were sore, but I didn't care. I peeled the panel away piece by piece, until I found something that made my stomach twist. Another wall, behind the first, built too close to the front. A fake wall, blocking something. I broke through the second layer, and that's when I found it. A small, windowless room, just a few feet wide. A mattress on the floor. No blankets, no light, just a metal chain bolted to the wall and a single barred window looking out to nowhere. The smell hit me first. Decay. This was it. This was where Emily had been kept. Hidden. Forgotten. I stepped inside, slowly. My flashlight swept across the walls. Scratches. Marks. Words carved into the paint with something sharp. Help me. I'm still here. Don't forget me. And then, on the far wall, in large, shaky letters, he lives above. My heart nearly stopped. I stared at those words, not blinking. He lives above? I live on the second floor. There's only one more floor in this building. Was Emily trying to tell me her captors still lived here? Still above me? I looked up at the ceiling, like I expected to see eyes staring back through it. Suddenly, I felt like I wasn't alone in that little room. I backed out slowly, heart pounding so loud I thought the walls might echo it. I sealed the room back up the best I could, but I knew everything had changed now. Emily wasn't just some ghost in the walls. She had left me a path. And now, the next step was clear. If the man who did this was still upstairs, I had to find him. But more importantly, he might already know I'm looking. I didn't go upstairs right away. I wanted to, but something in my gut told me he'd know. And if Emily was right, if he really still lived up there, then rushing in could get me hurt. Or worse, I needed to be careful. So I started watching. Every day for the next 3 days, I paid attention to everything. The third floor only had 2 apartments. One on the left, one on the right. I memorized who came in and out. The woman on the left was older, quiet. I heard her talking to her cat once through the door. I saw her watering plants on the fire escape. She didn't seem like someone hiding secrets. The man on the right? He was different. Middle-aged. Moved like someone who didn't want to be noticed. I never caught his name. He barely spoke to anyone. Didn't say hello in the halls. No music. No TV noise. No smells of cooking, ever. But he watched people. I caught him staring out the window once while I was taking out the trash. Just standing there. Still, no expression. Like he was studying me. Waiting. That night, I decided to check the building records online. I dug deep, old tenant lists, property management files, anything I could find. And there it was. Apartment 3B had been rented by the same person since 1995. I leaned back in my chair and just stared at the screen. The same year Emily's photo was taken. The same year her journal started. I couldn't breathe. He had been here this whole time. All these years. Living right above me. I ran my hands through my hair. My skin felt like it didn't fit anymore. I didn't want to sleep. I didn't want to move. I felt like if I blinked, I'd see him standing at my door. But I had to be sure. I had to know what he did to her. And what he might still be hiding. So I made a plan. The next night, I waited until the building was quiet. No footsteps. No voices. Just the hum of city air through the vents. Then I went to the 3rd floor. I didn't knock. I just listened. At first, nothing. I heard something. A dragging sound. Like furniture slowly moving across the floor. Then silence. A faint tapping. Not from him. From inside the apartment. I pressed my ear against the door. And I swear to God, I heard a woman whisper, "Don't let him find you." I stumbled back, heart pounding, legs weak. My breath caught in my throat. I ran down the stairs, not even caring how loud I was. I locked my door, shut the blinds, and sat in the middle of my room with the letters all around me. This was real. She was still trying to reach out. But not for herself. For me. Emily wasn't the one in danger anymore. I was. And now I think he knows that I know. I didn't leave my apartment the next day. I didn't eat much. I barely moved. I just sat there, trying to figure out what the hell I had gotten myself into. I kept hearing her voice. "Don't let him find you." It played over and over in my head like a warning I wasn't meant to forget. I stayed up all night again, lights on, letters spread across my bed like a shield. Every creak in the building made me jump. I started checking the peephole every 30 minutes, even when I hadn't heard anything. At 3:13 a.m., I saw something. I was lying on the couch, finally drifting off, when I heard the faintest squeak. The sound of stairs. Slow, deliberate footsteps coming down from the 3rd floor. I held my breath. Then I heard it. A soft knock. But this time, it was on my door. Not the walls. Not the pipes. My door. 3 slow taps. Exactly like before. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Then a pause. And then the doorknob turned. It was locked, thank God. But it turned. Slowly. Then shook just a little. Like whoever was there was testing it. Not trying to break in. Just making a point. I stood frozen in place, still staring at the door. My heart felt like it would rip through my chest. And then, silence. Nothing. Whoever was... I didn't sleep after that. When the sun finally came up, I took every lock I had and doubled it. I even jammed a chair under the handle like some old horror movie. I couldn't take any more chances. But I knew I couldn't just sit here forever. So I started putting the pieces together. I pulled out Emily's letters. Her journal. The dates. The details. And slowly I started building a timeline. Day 1, he locks her in. Day 12, she screams out a window. Day 19, he watches her through vents. Day 34, he finds her letters. Day 39, she hears someone moving in next door. That's when something clicked. The only way she could have heard a neighbor was if the walls were thin enough, or if there were vents between the units. And that detail, he watches me through the vents, that kept haunting me. I grabbed a stool and checked the vent in my bedroom. It was old, rusted, but still intact. I unscrewed the cover and looked inside. At first, just dust and cobwebs. Then I shined my flashlight deeper. There was something in there. I reached in, heart racing, and pulled it out. It was a tiny metal charm, a necklace. The chain was broken, and the pendant was shaped like a little crescent moon. I recognized it immediately. It matched the moon drawings Emily had sketched in the corners of some of her letters. This was hers, and she left it in the vent. But I reached in again, farther. I felt something. Paper. I pulled it out carefully. Another letter. But this one was different. It was new. The paper wasn't yellowed or cracked. And it wasn't folded like the others. It was rolled, tied with a string, and still smelled faintly of ink. If you found this, he knows you're close. I tried to stop him. I really did. But he's not just a man anymore. He's part of this place. The walls keep his secrets. And now, so do you. My vision blurred. My hands were shaking. This wasn't just about a man and a missing girl anymore. There was something else inside this building. Something older, darker. Something that wanted to stay hidden. And it knew I was getting too close. I left the apartment the next morning. Not for good, just for air. For space. For sanity. Every shadow in that place felt like it was watching me. Every wall felt like it was listening. And the worst part? I still couldn't leave for long. I wasn't just curious anymore. I was connected to Emily. I knew her pain, her fear. I carried it around with me like a second skin. If I walked away now, it would be like leaving her behind all over again. Like letting him win. So I went to the library. I figured if I couldn't find anything online, maybe the old records, the stuff nobody bothers to digitize, could tell me something. City building permits, fire inspections, renovation history. I spent hours flipping through faded documents, dusty files, old microfilm rolls. Then I found it, a 1994 blueprint of my building. And that's when everything changed. On the original design, there was no third-floor apartment on the right. No 3B, just a storage space. Unfinished, not meant for living. But now, someone lived there. He lived there. Which meant that apartment had been built illegally after the blueprint. Built to hide something. Or someone. My stomach dropped. I copied the blueprint and left as fast as I could. When I got back, I didn't even take off my shoes. I dropped the paper on the table, grabbed Emily's journal, and started comparing notes. That room, the one she was locked in, wasn't just hidden. It wasn't supposed to exist. Just like 3B. Just like him. Whoever this man was, he had turned the building into a maze of secrets. Built false walls. Created rooms out of nowhere. Hid people inside. And got away with it. For years. I went to the kitchen sink and splashed cold water on my face. That's when I heard it again. Knocking. But this time, not from the walls. It was coming from below. The floor. I dropped to my knees, pressing my ear to the old hardwood. Nothing. Then, 3 slow, dull knocks. I tapped back. Nothing. Then, faint scratching. I rushed to the basement. I had barely explored it since moving in. Just old boilers, breaker boxes, and a heavy musty smell like the whole place was rotting from the inside. But tonight, something felt different. The lights flickered when I opened the door. And somewhere in the dark, I swear I heard breathing. Not mine, but slow, like someone trying not to be heard. I stepped carefully, flashlight shaking in my hand. And then I saw it. A door at the very back of the basement. Wooden, heavy, painted the same color as the wall to blend in. I had never noticed it before. I turned the knob. It was locked. But something told me, behind that door was another piece of her story. Another piece of his. I backed away. I needed to think. To prepare. I couldn't go in unarmed. As I turned to leave, I glanced at the wall by the stairs. And my blood ran cold. Scratched into the brick. Nearly hidden behind a pipe. He comes when the knocking stops. I didn't know what that meant. But I knew one thing. Whatever was behind that door. It had been waiting. And now, it knew I was coming. I couldn't stop thinking about those words. He comes when the knocking stops. What did it mean? Was it a warning or a threat? I stayed up all night, staring at that locked basement door from my kitchen window. Every time the wind blew, I thought I heard whispers, or maybe just my own imagination running wild. The next day, I knew I had to get that door open. I needed answers, even if the truth scared me. I went back to the hardware store and bought a small lockpick set. I watched a few videos on how to use it. My hands were trembling, but I was determined. That night, after everyone was asleep, I crept down to the basement. The air was thick and cold. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness. I knelt by the door, took a deep breath, and started working on the lock. It opened. The door creaked as I pushed it slowly. Inside was a narrow staircase leading down. The air smelled worse, like damp earth and old secrets. I stepped down carefully. The walls closed in around me. At the bottom, I found a small room, bare, empty, except for a single wooden chair in the center and a thick layer of dust covering everything. But on the far wall, written in faded red paint, were words that made my blood run cold. "You're not safe. He watches. He waits." A sudden noise behind me made me spin around. Nothing. Just darkness. I wanted to run, but I knew I couldn't. This was no longer just about Emily. This was about me, and whatever was watching from the shadows. I stood frozen in that dark basement room, the red words on the wall burning in my mind. "You're not safe. He watches. He waits." My heart pounded so loud I thought it would burst. Every shadow seemed to move, every sound echoing like footsteps behind me. I forced myself to look around, searching for anything, any clue about who he was or what he wanted. That's when I noticed it. A small, worn notebook lying on the floor near the chair. I picked it up carefully. The cover was cracked and the pages yellowed. But it was a journal, different from Emily's, older. Flipping through the pages, I saw a name. Henry Caldwell. And then something even worse. A confession. Henry wrote about keeping someone locked away, controlling her every move, watching her like a predator. He wrote about the walls, the vents, the hidden rooms. But the last entry stopped mid-sentence, as if he was interrupted. I felt sick. This was the man, Emily's captor, and judging by the date, more than 20 years ago, he never left. I dropped the notebook. I wanted to get out, but then I heard it. A faint scraping noise from the staircase behind me. Slow, methodical. Someone, or something, was coming. I grabbed the notebook and sprinted up the stairs, my heart in my throat. As I reached the basement door, I heard a low, chilling whisper. "You shouldn't be here." I slammed the door shut, locked it, and backed away trembling. The hunt was over. But now, the danger had only just begun. I couldn't stop shaking. The basement door felt like a barrier between me and something I didn't want to face, but I knew I couldn't hide forever. I sat down at my kitchen table, clutching Henry Caldwell's journal, trying to piece everything together. Who was Henry really? How had he stayed hidden all this time? Emily's writings, Henry's confession, the secret rooms, they all pointed to one terrifying truth. This building was a trap. A prison built to keep someone locked away. What? And how many others? The silence in my apartment was heavy, thick, like the walls themselves were holding their breath. I heard a faint creak behind me. I froze. Nothing. Just the house settling? Or something more? I grabbed my phone and called the police. I told them everything. The letters, the hidden rooms, the locked basement door, the journal. The officer on the other end said they'd send someone to check it out. But before I could hang up, a cold breeze blew through the room. The lights flickered, and the door to my apartment slowly creaked open by itself. I wasn't alone. I knew then the past wasn't done with me, and neither was Henry Caldwell. The door swung open slowly, making a soft creaking sound that echoed through the quiet apartment. My heart slammed against my ribs as I stood frozen, staring at the empty hallway beyond the doorway. No one was there, but the feeling of being watched was stronger than ever. I took a deep breath, trying to calm myself, but my hands trembled as I reached for the lock to secure the door again. Then, from the living room, I heard it, a faint whisper, almost too soft to hear. "You shouldn't be here." The voice was cold, low, and full of warning. I grabbed my phone, ready to call for help, but the battery was dead. Panic rose inside me. I ran to the window, pulling back the curtain to look outside. Nothing unusual, just the empty street and the quiet city lights. But when I turned back, I saw it. On the wall across the room, written in fresh red letters, was a new message. "Leave before he comes." My breath caught in my throat. He wasn't just watching. He was here. closer than I ever imagined. And now there was no turning back. The message on the wall burned in my mind. Leave before he comes. But I couldn't leave. Not yet. I needed answers. I grabbed Henry Caldwell's journal and Emily's letters, stuffing them into my bag. I was going to find out the truth, no matter what. The sun had gone down. The building was dark and quiet. I took a deep breath and stepped outside. The night air was cold and sharp against my skin. I walked toward the staircase that led to the 3rd floor. My heart pounded louder with every step. What if he was waiting for me? What if I was walking right into a trap? But I couldn't turn back now. I reached the 3rd floor. The hallway was empty. I stood in front of apartment 3B, the place that shouldn't even exist. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Then faint scratching, like nails on wood. I swallowed hard and tried the handle. I knocked softly. Nothing. I knocked again, louder this time. Then, the door slowly creaked open by itself. A cold, dark space stretched before me. And at the far end of the room, I saw a shadow. It moved just slightly, watching. Waiting. I stepped inside, heart racing. This was the moment I'd been waiting for. To face the darkness. To face him. The room was cold and empty, but the air felt heavy, like it was filled with whispers from the past. The shadow at the far end didn't move again. I took a shaky step forward, gripping the journal tightly. "Who are you?" I called out, voice barely more than a whisper. Silence. Then a slow, low chuckle echoed through the room. "I've been waiting for you," the voice said, calm but full of menace. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my shaking hands. "You kept her here," I said, voice breaking. "Emily. You hurt her." The shadow shifted slightly, moving closer to the light. And then I saw him. Not a monster. Not a ghost. Just a man. But his eyes were cold, empty, like they belonged to someone who had lived too long in darkness. "Yes," he said softly. "I kept her. But she was never just a victim." "What do you mean?" I asked, fear and confusion twisting inside me. He smiled, a cruel, tired smile. "There's more to this building. More to Emily's story. And now you're part of it." The walls seemed to close in around us. I realized then, this wasn't just a story about the past. It was about what was still happening, and how far he was willing to go to keep it hidden. I stood there, heart pounding, staring into his empty eyes. His words hung in the air, heavy and dark. "There's more to this building, and to Emily's story," he said. I wanted to run, to scream, to get out of that room. But something kept me rooted in place. Curiosity, fear, maybe even hope. He stepped closer, his voice low and quiet. "She wasn't just trapped. She was part of something bigger, something you don't understand yet." I shook my head, trying to make sense of it all. "Why are you telling me this? Why now?" He smiled again, this time with a strange sadness. "Because you found the letters. Because you saw the walls. Because you're the one who can finish what she started." A cold chill ran down my spine. I realized this wasn't just about uncovering the past, it was about choosing the future. The building, the secrets, the darkness, they were all alive. And now, so was I. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what lay ahead. This story wasn't over. It was only just beginning. I never thought a simple move into a new apartment could turn my life upside down. But finding those letters hidden in the walls changed everything. Emily's story wasn't just about a missing girl or a cruel man. It was about the shadows that live in places we think are safe, the secrets we don't see, and the dangers we ignore. Now, I understand that some walls don't just hold up a building. They hold memories, pain, and even warnings. I don't know what comes next. I don't know if I'll ever feel truly safe again. But I do know one thing. I won't stop searching, because some stories deserve to be told, and some voices, no matter how faint, need to be heard.